We'll just look over here and see if we're ready.
Hi everyone, welcome. Just a friendly reminder, please everybody turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. At this time I'm going to turn it over to President, CEO, and General Manager of the Detroit Tigers, David Dombrowski.
Well, thank you, Eileen. I appreciate everybody coming today. The Tigers have a major announcement, and I will introduce the gentleman to my left to make that announcement. We'll have plenty of comments and questions and take them afterwards, but I think it's more apropos that it comes from the skipper himself. So, Jim.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate that. I want to make this perfectly clear, and I want to please clearly understood what's going on today. I've told most all of you in the past, including my boss here and Mr. Ilitch, when it's time, it's time. And it's time. It's time to step down from the managerial position of the Detroit Tigers and accept another position yet to be determined. But as I said, it's time. But the most important thing that I would like to get across today is so that there'll be really, I'm still grumpy, so there'll be no silly questions. I want to tell you exactly how this went down. So there won't be any speculation as to whether, you know, they gave me the benefit of the doubt, said we want you to resign, that would be classier. We don't really want to just say we're not bringing you back. That was not the case at all. On September 7th in Kansas City, after we shellacked the Royals Friday night, I asked Dave if I could meet him for coffee in the morning. And I did that, and the conversation basically went like this. I said, Dave, I don't know what your plans were for next year. And he said, well, you're my manager. And I said, well, I'm not going to be the manager. I said, it's time. I don't feel it will be fair to this organization, to the players, to Mr. Ilitch, to the media, to the fans, or for anybody else for me to continue to go on. The fuel was starting to get low, and that's just the way it went. I was asked to come back, but this has gone on for a long time. Dave's known it for a long time. I hope that nobody is upset that this didn't get out, because it's a pretty simple reason why it didn't get out. We never told any players. There were probably 3 people that knew about this. We didn't tell any players because we didn't want to upset the apple cart. We were trying to win another championship, in which we did, some form of a championship. We didn't want this to be a distraction. We have said all along that my contract here would never be a distraction, and it hasn't been. And we went on to win the Central Division, and of course later on let a American League Championship get away, to be honest with you, which I apologize for. I'm very sorry that we didn't get that done for you, but it wasn't because everybody wasn't on the same page and everybody didn't do their best. That was the first part. The second part of this was I informed my players Saturday night after the game in Boston that I would not be returning. I didn't know how to take it when they clapped. I wasn't sure if they... but I informed them, and you could hear a pin drop. It really wasn't, believe it or not, it really wasn't that emotional. I spent the last 24 hours promising myself I would not get emotional today, and I'm not gonna. Believe it or not, but it was touching. I had a lot of nice comments from my players. I love them. Like I said, we talk about the playoffs and everything. There was never any need, in my opinion, and there never has been in my managerial career, to ever single anybody out in a situation like that, a player. My philosophy has always been, as a group, as an organization, as that team, manager and coaches, collectively, we just did not get it done. And that's the attitude I've always had. Some people said, and I've said this to several of you before, that I've protected my players to a fault. I hope that's something I take to my grave. That's just the way it is. It's been a thrill. I can't, like I said in the release, you know, I came here to change talent to team, if you read the release. And I think that from the help of this entire organization, I think we've done that. We've won quite a bit. I'm very grateful to have been a small part of that. I really, truly am. I'm going to be accepting another position. As I said, I don't know exactly what that's at, but I want to retire a Tiger. I'm not totally retiring today. I'm just not going to be in the dugout anymore. And I hope and pray that you give the next manager the same respect and the same chance that you gave me, which is also in the press release. It was absolutely terrific. I know I've had my critics. All managers do. and I know I've probably had a few people that like me, believe it or not. But I just can't express what a thrill it's been to work for Mr. Ilitch. You know, when I took this job 8 years ago, when I walked in his office, I said one thing to him. I said, "I'll do a good job for you," and that's all I said. I've never socialized with Mr. Ilitch. He has never one time called down and jumped on me about who to play or what to do with the lineup, or he has never complained one time. Now, I'm sure he's had some conversations with Dave on some nights that maybe he wasn't so happy, but I could never have asked for a better owner than Mike Ilitch. I just doesn't have. So, my boss here, I think you're blessed. This organization will move on. I'm prejudiced. I think he's the best baseball executive in the business. And the reason I say that is because I know he has a great talent for hiring managers. But no, I truly mean that. You're in good hands. You'll be in good hands when he decides on his next manager, and this organization will not miss a beat. To all those people in the front office that I love you. I probably didn't spend as much time with you as I could have, but I was thinking about you. I know how hard you work, and I appreciate everything you did for me and your loyalty to me as your manager. And I can't ever imagine the thrills that I've had in the last 8 years. You know, to be retired from managing and get a chance to come back and manage the organization you were born in is an unbelievable thrill. I made my mistakes, like they all do. All managers do. I probably was a little grumpy with the press at times, but I can't ever say that I wasn't there for you. I think I did my job. I think I was there for you, and you were there for me. And I appreciate that very much through everything. So I'm going to close in saying so long. Once again, it's in the press release. It's not goodbye, because I will remain in the organization doing something. And from the bottom of my heart, to the fans, to the media, to this organization, thank you for having me.
Just to say a quick word before we turn it over to questions is that this is a time that this last 8 years have been a very memorable time for the Detroit Tigers organization under Jim's leadership on the field. We will miss him a great deal in the dugout on the field. He will still remain with us and consult with myself and be involved in various things in the organization as yet to be fully determined, but definitely will have a spot there. He'll be missed. His achievements, when you'll get all the press releases and that, his achievements speak for itself, all of them themselves, when you start looking at where he ranks all time, not only in Detroit Tiger history, but Major League Baseball history with the number of wins, number of games managed. When you think about it, over the last 8 years, we've been to the LCS 4 times, as much as anybody in the American League. We've won a lot of ball games. We've had a lot of great moments and a lot of nice celebrations. And he's going to have some tough shoes, the next guy, whoever it is, that comes in here to fill. But on behalf of Mike Ilitch and the Detroit Tigers organization, myself, all the employees here, we say as deep heartfelt a thanks as we possibly can for everything that you've done for us.
Thank you.
And we're in your hands, Ron and Eileen.
We'll now open up for questions. Let's start with Lynn over there in the back.
As good as this team should be next year, Jim, how much temptation was there, though, to continue this for another year? And you still wouldn't have even been to the year age 70 yet. But what was sort of the timeline in that thought process?
Well, I truly think this is going to be a very good team next year, but I think it would have been totally selfish on my part. I think I would have been coming back for the wrong reason. I've never been a guy to take a paycheck if I didn't think I could do this. This job entails a lot more than people think. There's a lot more than writing out the lineup and pulling a pitcher. And like I said, I'm low on fuel. I could see it coming. The trips were starting to get tough. You know, if you look at what we just did in the postseason, went out to Oakland back and forth twice, then flew into Boston, got in at 9 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, I'm going to be 69 years old. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm proud of it. But the fuel's getting a little low. And that's the one thing I'm really happy about. You know, I think I still got a chance to get a World Series ring here. You know, at least I think they'll give me one if they win it next year. But it's in good hands. Like I said, we're just changing the guard a little bit. You know, that's all we're doing. And somebody's going to inherit a good team, and I pray and hope that you give them the same chance that you gave me. I think they'll do great, and I'll be pulling every second for them. And I'll you know, I really hope. This sounds kind of selfish, but I hope within the next 2 or 3 years, I get a chance to throw out the first pitch at Comerica Park. And I'm also going to be, shortly after the press conference, I am going to be an official member of the Skippers Rippers Club. I'm going to be ripping in the Skippers. I'm going to be.
John?
Dave, in the new manager, how important is it to have someone who has managed in the big leagues and somebody who has gone to the postseason in the big leagues?
Well, I think that, you know, as Jim mentioned, it's for me, I've known about this since September 7th. I told one person, and that person was Mike Ilitch. That was it. I did not tell anybody else. Normally I tell my trusted lieutenants about everything, and I didn't tell them this because we had talked about it, that we just didn't, Jim preferred it that way. And when you have something of this magnitude, it has a tendency to, the more people that know, somebody can leak it out. I think that for me, managerial experience at some level has always been very important quality in a major league manager when you hire them. I think the ability to have handled a club, because there's so much, this is such a large job out nowadays. People don't have any pulse of that really unless you're there day in and day out. So having managed is important, not necessarily at the major league level. So then in that case, not necessarily at in the postseason. But I would also say that there have been some people that haven't managed that have done solid jobs at the major league level. And to be closed-minded on anybody at this point would be too premature. But for me, in the past, it's always been preferable. We have a very good club. We will continue to have a good club. And expectations will be to compete and try to win a championship again next year. So we'll put all that into a hopper, have some discussions, and ask some questions, and start to interview people pretty soon.
Over to the right, Mitch.
Jim, over here, the job of managers changed a lot over the years that you've been in baseball. What small parts of it will you miss, and what parts of it will you actually not miss?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer always is I'm going to miss the players. I'm going to miss the people that you work with. You know, you develop a relationship with players over the years, and today I want to thank all the players, not just the players that played for me at Detroit, but all the players I've ever had. I have so much respect for them because they're so good, and it's so tough to be good at this level. So obviously you're going to miss the relationships. You miss the clubhouse, you miss the relationships, I'll miss the competition. I guess that it's just become such a tiring job now with all the travel at my age. I think that has a factor. But all the media responsibilities that you have to go through. All the taking care of some players' personal problems or trying to help them along those lines. This job entails so much that, you know, I don't think people really understand that. So, you know, I'm not going to miss some of that stressful stuff that you have to go through, but I'm certainly going to miss the... I was here because I like to compete. I wasn't good enough to play, but I really enjoyed managing people like Al Kalines and the Rocky Calavitos and the Harvey Keens and the Mickey Loliches and the Miguel Cabreras and the Magdio. That's an honor, and I've enjoyed it. I'll miss it.
Steve on the right.
Jim, Jim, I didn't know that I'm over here.
Right.
Hey, Jim. If you could share with us maybe the people you told after September 7th, and also share with us what you're most proud of from your years here as a Tiger manager.
Well, I'm not going to hold anything back here. I'm going to tell you exactly, like I said, I told you exactly how this went down. I will tell you two people that I told. Three people. My wife, Katie, Jean Lamont, and Tony La Russa, because I wanted to get some advice on how to be fairest to the organization so that Dave could move forward. What did he think the timing should be? If I knew I wasn't going to come back, I thought it would have been totally phony to, to wait till the end and say, hey, I'm not coming back. I didn't think that would be fair, particularly to somebody that treated me as well as I've been treated here. So there were like three people that knew, and they gave me their word, and obviously it never got out. So those were the people that knew. And like I said, I wanted to get some advice from Tony because he went through this a little bit, although his was a little bit different. And I just wanted to make sure that I did everything first class and that I didn't do anything that when, and my moments here are, I mean, they're priceless. They really are. They're priceless. I mean, to be in that Tiger dugout and see all the fans and see all the celebrations and see all the towels waving quite a few times in postseason. Obviously, we didn't get the big prize. And it breaks my heart for Mr. Ilitch more than it does for me because I've been fortunate enough to win a big prize once. But it's just been absolutely fantastic. And as you can tell, I don't hear real well because I'm not sure where it's coming from. So I got to tell you about this during the playoff. My wife and I were in church, and I told her that I whispered to her that I let one of those silent fluffies of mine. What should I do? And she said, get a new battery for your hearing aid. Are there any other questions? This should be a fun day. Any other questions? You're rid of me. Be happy. You ought to be celebrating. You're all going to go out and get drunk. I know you are.
Tom, over on the right.
I'm sorry. The second part of the question, what are you proudest of what you did here?
Well, I'm proud to have, first of all, to have the privilege of managing the Detroit Tigers. I never thought that would happen. But really, I'm being selfish. The number of wins, the number of postseason appearances, I mean, I've just been so blessed. I don't want to slight anybody because it's been as much fun for me to manage Ramon Santiago as it has Miguel Cabrera, Justin Verlander. Now, in saying that, it was also an honor to manage a Triple Crown winner, an MVP, a Cy Young winner. I mean, I know you people are aware of it, but you people, as well as me, we've been very fortunate to see what's gone on here in the last few years. It's a credit to Dave, the scouting staff, Al Avila, John Westhoff. I mean, it's a credit to all these people what's gone on here. This has been something really special. And I guess we'll never get it quite to the top of the special list because we didn't win a World Series, but what's gone on here has been unbelievable. I mean, we've won a lot of games. We've had a lot of seats filled. We've had a lot of, no-hitters, and like I say, MVPs, Cy Youngs. I mean, this just doesn't happen. So enjoy it. I know I think that the thing that I'm proudest of when it's all said and done is the fact, once again, referring to my press release, I came here to make talent a team, and I think we did that.
This on? Jim, you've always had immense respect from your players. Whoever takes over this job is going to inherit a ton of talent. But with that talent, obviously, naturally comes ego. You've been able to handle that with guys who are the best in the game. If there is advice that you give a guy who has to inherit a team with talented players with egos, how were you able to manage that with this team, and how challenging is it?
Well, everybody for years has been saying what a good clubhouse we have, and I keep telling everybody we have a good clubhouse because I never go in it. I let the players take care of it. I expect them to police themselves. I expect them to come ready to play, and I expect them to be accountable. I really do. And I think that's helped. I don't go out there, this is not to police them or anything. I'm proud of that. I think, but fortunately, at the same time, we have good characters on this team. We have good people. For the most part, when you sit down and talk with them and talk common sense, they understand and they go along with the program. I don't foresee that being a problem. I don't know who Dave's next manager is going to be. I will have nothing to do with that. But I do know that, in my case, one of the things that I'm proud about my career is that some managers have to lose the players' respect, and because I was a no player and a AA guy, I had to earn the players' respect. And that's probably my proudest moment over my entire career. I mean, and I don't mean this wrong, because there's nothing wrong with that, but a Lou Piniella, Pete Rose, whoever it was that managed, they had some status when they came in. So they really had to lose the players' respect. But somebody like in my case, I felt like I had to earn the players' respect. I hope I did that.
Over here on the left, Wojo.
Jim, you just said that you wouldn't have any input on the next manager, but do you have in your mind, and would you offer suggestions, and do you have in your mind the type of management that it would take to manage this somewhat unique team?
I probably have some thoughts that I don't think it would be right for me to share. I think I would share those with Dave, but I don't think it would be right for me to share those publicly. Once again, I don't have anything to do with a managerial search. I will answer any question Dave's asked me. If he wants to make me a part of something, I will do that, but I don't stick my nose in Dave's business. Like I said, he's pretty good at hiring managers, and I think that, you know, if I'm asked some questions, I'll answer those, but in no way, shape, or form will I ever be the voice of the Detroit Tigers. That's up to Dave Dombrowski and Mike Ilitch, and I'll answer as many questions as I could ask that I could talk about. But that's Dave's job. He's very good at it, and I have some thoughts. If he asked me about them, I would be certainly willing to give him my opinion. But you know, I'm not looking to step on anybody's toes or anything. I just I'll be doing something in the organization, whatever Dave wants me to do, whether it be going out to look at a player or giving a speech or going to spring training, going to winter meetings. I know a lot of people in baseball. We'll iron those facts out, but this is why he's the boss. He makes those decisions, and I'll only have input if I'm asked.
Over on the right.
Dave, your choice of next manager and any other decisions that you make in the off-season, of course, would probably require the input, at least, of Mr. Ilitch. What can you tell us, if anything, at this point about Mr. Ilitch's status? Is he okay? Is he engaged in the management of the team?
Well, Mike Ilitch is fine. He's was at the games in the postseason here as we stretched. Was in Boston the other day. So he's fine. I talk to him often, and we haven't sat down and talked a great deal about this present situation because it just took place. He was aware it was taking place, and I'm sure that we'll sit down some this week to talk about various thought processes going into next year, but he's been around and been doing fine.
Mitch?
Jim, knowing that this was going to be, you knew that this was going to be the end, how did that change your emotions in the postseason as like Game 5 with Oakland, maybe thinking this could be my last game, going through to Boston, and even how you felt at the very last game when it all ended? What were your emotions throughout that?
Well, you know, I'm very emotional most of the time. I'm not proud of that, but I am. I didn't really think about that. I was so wrapped up in trying to win this thing, and I'm so I don't want to say embarrassed is a word, but this one really hurt. This one hurt bad because I thought like we let one get away, and like I said, we did it collectively. There was no one culprit. As the head of the ball club and the manager, I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I just felt like we let one get away, and that's what hurt more than anything else. I really truly believe, with all due respect to the Boston Red Sox, who earned it, they won it, and they deserve to be where they are. I truly believe the Detroit Tigers should be playing here tomorrow, and this is one that's going to stick with me. This is one that really hurts because I really felt like we let it get away.
Over here on the left, Jen.
Jim, can you talk about, other than not winning it all, ultimately, what some of your regrets, or perhaps maybe your biggest regret, might be?
No, I don't have any regrets. I mean, like I said, I have some pain today. I had a lot of pain the last couple days after that loss the other night because it's really a tough one. But, I mean, when people just throw around World Series like it happens all the time, I think that gets a little foolish. People who think that this was a totally disappointing season, I totally disagree with that. I mean, when it was all said and done, we won 98 games. We drew 3 million people. We won the divisional series. We went to the championship series. I'd hate to think that that's not a pretty successful season. I know the expectations. I understand all that. And like I say, I apologize for not getting you all the way. I do. But I have no regrets. I know, this is what I told my players. I said, there's one thing, and this is what I told them Saturday night. There's one thing for sure. You gave me everything you had, and I gave you everything I had. And I have no complaints. It just hurts because I really feel like we let this one get away.
Period of going back and forth about it.
I really didn't hear that, Tom.
Before you told Dave in September, how long was the period of going back and forth about the decision?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess somewhere, probably in June, I started thinking this was getting a little rough. I thought like the fuel was getting a little low, but I knew that I'd get through it because I knew we'd be playing for something. I knew we were going to be in the hunt, and it really actually helped me out. Cleveland actually helped me out, to be honest with you. Playing so good and getting so close, it really kept me going, and it kept me pumped up. And I knew that I would have the energy to get through this entire season, but I could just tell, just signs, getting off long trips, being pretty tired, and I'm healthy, by the way. I'm fine. But, just I could see things, that were starting to happen, and I've had several people tell me that you'll know when it's time, and I could start to see some signs that, the main thing is that, I mean, I could get through this next year, but it wouldn't be fair because, like I said, I don't really think anybody in this audience, with the exception of maybe Dave and Al Kaline and John Westhoff, I don't really think they know what this job entails. Like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but there's a lot more than writing out a lineup and being happy-go-lucky and hitting a few fungos. There's a lot more that goes on in that, and I just, it's time. It's time to turn that over to somebody else, and I'm proud to do it. I mean, I'm glad to be able to do it. I've been so lucky that, this was 50 years for me in baseball. I mean, you're talking about a guy that hit .222 in the minor leagues and got released and thought he was going to go back somewhere and work back home in Perrysburg, Ohio, and 50 years later, managed the Detroit Tigers, been on a team, been a member of a team that won the World Series. Man, I mean, this is, made a lot of money. I mean, this has been unbelievable. So I'm just going to cherish it. But I'm just not going to take a paycheck unless I think I got all the fuel I need to do the right job. Most of all, for the players, for Dave Dombrowski, Mike Ilitch, and the fans. That's just not my style. You can say a lot of things about me, but I've never taken a paycheck that I didn't think I earned.
Bojo?
Jim, just going back to Saturday night for a second, was it on the team plane that you told the team? And if you could take us there, what you said, or any reaction from players or anybody else that stood out to you?
I can tell you that. It was not on the team. I talked to Dave after the game. We had been trying to plan this whenever this did happen. But to be honest with you, we didn't want to announce anything right after the game. I did talk to my players right after the game in the clubhouse, but we wanted to make sure we weren't announcing anything because we did not want to, and I'm not flattering myself, but we didn't want in any way, shape, or form to rain on the parade of the Boston Red Sox. They were the champions. This should not have come out that night that Jim Leyland, because it would have been a story with a few people, maybe not many, but it would have been with few. And we didn't want to take anything from the Red Sox winning. So we said, okay, what's the best way, the classiest way? We didn't want to wait till we got on the plane. There was kids on the plane. People were going to be sleeping. You didn't know where people were sitting. So Dave suggested that I do it then. And I told him the exact thing that I told you today. I explained to him about going to Dave, and I explained to him that I told him, you know, I mean, word for word, exactly what I told you today. And trust me, this is exactly how it happened. I mean, you don't have to waste any time figuring out, you know, you think maybe they didn't want him back. And, you know, I told you exactly how this thing happened. But I thought it would have been unprofessional to, you know, try to take some limelight, good or bad, away from Boston's accomplishment. I just don't think that, and Dave certainly agreed with that. We talked about it. You know, I just told the players I appreciate everything they did. We came up short. I loved them. You know, but it was time to turn it over to somebody else. And the emotions were, I had a couple that were pretty touching. Justin Verlander was a special one, I think. But I think that's probably because he was here all 8 years with me. But normally he doesn't like me. He even told me he loved me, but I couldn't believe it. But no, he was touched, and that touched me a little bit.
John, over on the right.
Dave, 2 questions about the coaching staff. How much will their status be up to the next manager, and will any of the current coaches be a candidate for the managerial job?
Well, some of that I'm not going to answer because I need to talk to coaches first. This, again, happening so quickly. I will say that all of their contracts are up at the end of the year, or end of the season here, October 31st. I would never stand in the way of anybody being in a position, if they're unsure what their status is with us, of finding another job somewhere else. I also think that you have to be careful with a new manager and putting people on his staff that they may not mesh. So that's also very important. But I think every situation will be one that, beyond that, I would talk to the coaches first.
Ryan, over here on the left.
Jim, whether right or wrong, one of the big discussion points going on right now is the relationship Prince Fielder has with the Tiger fans. To hear how bad it hurts you, to hear Torrey afterwards, after the game, say how bad it hurt him, when he made a mention that it's over, that did not play well with the fans, and he was booed here at Comerica Park. What would your advice be to him moving forward and to try to repair that relationship with the fans here who care as well?
I think that sometimes you have to read between the lines. I don't know if this is the answer or not, but my response to your point is this. Sometimes people make a baseball game bigger than life. And I'm not sure in his own way that Prince wasn't trying to say that this is not, there are other things besides this baseball game. It probably could have come out different, maybe should have come out different. But I think in reality that we all say from time to time, you know, when you look at certain situations or some tragedies or something, and you say, you know, we're complaining about losing a baseball game, and you look at somebody that's had some unfortunate situations, health or whatever, cancer, whatever it may be, we try to put things, and I think in some ways that's what he was trying to do, to say that look at the overall big picture, that I got children, I want to take this like a man, I can't pout about it. I read his comments. I will say this, that a few home runs in April and May, they'll be all right.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Dave, and thank you, Jim. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank all of you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
How are you? So the low fuel light was on for Jim Leyland. He makes it official what had been speculated about all morning long, that his tenure with the Tigers is over as a manager. He'll retain some job as some member of the front office, probably similar to the job he had for a time with the St. Louis Cardinals under Tony La Russa, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but he will no longer be in uniform, nor will he be in the Tiger dugout. Joined now by Mario Mpemba and Rod Allen, the play-by-play and color analyst voices for Tigers baseball. You and I were chatting this morning about the speculation. it's surprising, particularly for you because conversations that you had with the skipper.
Yeah, you know, back in May, Jim and I got together and we just happened to run into each other in a coffee shop in Texas, and I asked him, you know, how long do you want to keep doing this? And he said, well, I feel good right now, and, you know, maybe a couple more years, we'll see. So it did take me by surprise. I think that, you know, all of the stuff that he was talking about, the grind, the travel at his age, it's really become something that really kind of took his fuel tank from full to empty real quick, and this is the response.
All right, Ron, were you surprised?
Surprised but not shocked. I mean, here's a man that has always said that when his time is up, he will step down. When you think about his situation in Colorado a few years back when he was under a long-term contract and he walked away from that job because he got tired. He didn't want that situation to happen here. I do think the fact that the team didn't lose, probably that loss that kind of led to maybe him really walking away, even though he said it way back in September. But this much I will promise you, that when he did tell David Dombrowski that he was looking for another manager, so this team will be in great hands, whichever direction they go.
He made a reference to now joining the Skippers Rippers Club. We know him, you know, to be an emotional guy. We've seen that in some of the celebrations, particularly with Mario and the moonwalk, and we'll talk about that shortly. But I guess we know him to be at least aware of how much speculation is by Tiger fans to the decisions that he made during the course of a season.
No doubt about that, but one of the things that Jim did very well, he didn't let the fans dictate exactly how he wanted to manage the club. He didn't always agree with them, but he always knew that what decisions he made best for the club. They had some outstanding players here. He said he allowed the players to police the clubhouse. I think that's going to be very important moving forward. That kind of manager comes in as well, but he just did a marvelous job. I really enjoyed spending time with him the last 8 years.
All right, let's bring in the president and CEO of the Tigers, Dave Dombrowski, joins us. The best secret keeper we know, because you've been holding on to this since September 7th. What was your reaction when Jim told you that morning in Kansas City?
Well, I was very surprised. When you're around him day in and day out, he still had that passion to win. You saw the job. We dealt with issues all the time, so I was very surprised. I can never say shocked. The border between the two, and that, I mean, as you watch somebody and you know them for a long time, you can see that there's just some parts of the job that can wear on people. And really, as time takes place, that's why we decided to do this on a year-in, year-out basis, because all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you say, wow, this has really put me in a position where it's just too much of a grind. And so I wasn't shocked, but I was very surprised.
Did you try to talk him out of it, knowing that there are ebbs and flows, highs and lows to a season?
No, I didn't, and because I've known Jim a long time, and I know when he's come to a decision like that, he's come to it with a lot of thought process. He's not a guy that you talk out of things, and I could see in his heart that's how he felt. He felt very strongly about it, so at that point, that wasn't the time to do it. And it was also a time we just come off a big win. Yeah. Before that, we were in first place. It wasn't as if we were really scuffling at that time. So you could just tell it was that time.
Can you share with us Mike Ilitch's reaction when you told him that he would and you would need a new manager going forward?
Well, he was very surprised also, because he said, geez, I still see that. You've told me the passion. I see it myself that he still has it. And I said, it is, Mr. I. He does still have that. But just as age has progressed, he just feels that he's more worn down, and he was very understanding of that. To be missed, because he knows what a good job Jim has done for us. So was caught by surprise himself a little bit, but in a position where he understood.
You and he have been tied together for 8 years, so probably isn't really a pool of candidates you've been looking at maybe until September 7th. How much have you been sort of poking around, turning over rocks, checking on people, knowing you would have to make this decision at some point?
Well, I've done as much as I possibly can under the circumstances, because you really can't ask a lot of questions, because all of a sudden people would start wondering why you're asking the questions. So you're asking some general type thoughts. So I always have a list of names on just about every job. I think that's the responsibility of a general manager, that you're just sort of not caught by surprise. I have had a bunch of names that I have kept. I have looked over that list numerous times myself. By no means is it all encompassing, because I haven't talked to other people about it. But I've got a good pulse of where I think I'm going to start, and then we'll go from there.
Would you like to think that it will be a younger manager, maybe an up-and-coming name, as opposed to a guy like Jim, who came here with his own personal track record?
Well, I don't really have a mindset, and I just think it's important that whomever comes in here is in a position where we have a chance to win. This is not a job in which you're looking for a manager to grow and learn on the job, in the sense that right away the expectations will be to win. So if that person's a younger guy, or if he's a guy that's managed before, he's a guy that's older, it'll be a situation where the expectations will be come in here and manage a club and try to win a world championship next year.
Good luck in your search. Congratulations on the season. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, John.
There's Tigers president Dave Dombrowski, and we continue with Rod Allen. We'll bring him in. Is there a name that popped into your head when you heard that Jim Leyland would no longer be the Tiger manager?
No, not one name per
Come
se.
on.
No, there's a few guys out there. I mean, Brad Osmus's name continues to come up. Of course, he was a former catcher, really a good manager. Dusty Baker, who was let go of the Cincinnati Reds, whoever they bring in here, they're going to need a really strong personality. When you have guys like a Torrey Hunter, you have a Miguel Cabrera, you have a Justin Verlander, and the way they did things here, where Jim allowed the players to come out and stretch by themselves. Some of these younger managers, they come in and they do different things. So this team is accustomed to doing things a certain way, and they've been very successful. So trust me, whoever David Dombrowski brings in here next is going to have to be a very strong-willed type manager, which is also willing to allow some of the things that have gone on in the past to continue to take place, because it was a very successful group.
Do you think that they need somebody who's going to change that sort of culture, though, to get them to the next step? Or do you risk the danger of sort of eliminating some of the success that this team has enjoyed?
That's a great question. I think you can do a little bit of both. I mean, you can come in with a guy that maybe cracks the whip a little bit more so than Jim did. I mean, Jim just did things a certain way. He was very successful at doing things the way that he did things. But there may be a situation where you bring a guy in that's a little bit more stern in certain areas. Like I say, when you have MVPs and you have guys that have won batting titles and Cy Youngs, it's a very talented group. And you also have a coaching staff that was very successful. And when you look at Jeff Jones and the pitching staff, and although Lloyd McClendon down the stretch, a lot of people don't agree with how the hitting went, but he had a very successful run here too. So it's going to be some very difficult decisions as they move forward.
Yeah, from a human, we bring Mario back in now. The coaching staff obviously is tied to the manager, whomever that will be. And I had a conversation with Jeff Jones about his future, because now the coaching staff, you know, left in some position of scrambling for the next job, whether it's here or somewhere else. I guess that's the human element of the game that not everybody keeps in mind.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting that Dave mentioned when he was asked about the coaching staff and you know, their futures. You know, he did say you don't want to, I don't think, ever want to force coaches on a new manager. So I think there has to be a little bit of give and take there. But, you know, the guys that have been here a long time. Lloyd McClendon became part of the fabric here. Gene Lamont became part of the fabric here. You know, even Brookie the last couple of years. So it's going to be tough. I mean, those guys right now are a little bit uncertain as to whether or not they will be back or will be moving on, but certainly they have to look out for their futures, and if that means testing the waters right now, they certainly have to do that.
All right, right behind you, Mario, is Don Kelly. Let's bring him in. Pittsburgh native. He shares that connection with Jim Leyland. All right, what was the clubhouse like in Boston when Jim gathered you after a tough loss and your season ended to tell you that he was retiring?
Well, you know, it was tough. I mean, especially after that kind of loss and that situation, and then when you know, Skip told us that he was retiring, it was hard. I mean, you know, when he's been here for so long, the team, the core of the team has been here for so long, to have all those guys, and it was a shock, I think, to a lot of guys.
Were you surprised? Did you see this coming at all, that he might not have more after this season?
No, I mean, during the season he had the fire, the energy, the passion that he always had to go out there and compete. But when you're talking about the road trips, and you know how the playoffs are, when you're getting in at 7:30, 9:30, 4:30, it takes its toll, and you know, Skipper's giving it everything he's got.
When did you find out officially that this day was going to happen, that there were no second thoughts, that he was making this move and he was not going to be your manager, your team's manager anymore?
That was Saturday. Yeah, that was, you know, after the game, nobody really knew prior to that, I guess, except for Dave. But, you know, it was a shock on Saturday.
So he came out of the tiny little manager's office in the tiny little clubhouse in Boston and told you this, and as he left, what was the reaction among the guys? What was said between all of you?
Well, it was just a tough situation. You know, after losing a game, your season comes to an end, and then you find out that, you know, Skip's going to retire. It was tough. You know, Skip gave a great speech, emotional. You know, just telling everybody, you know how he is, just leaving it all out there. And you know, it was a good reception. I mean, for given that moment, I mean, everybody was kind of down after the loss.
How important was it for you to be here today to take some of this in?
Oh, absolutely important. I mean, being a guy from Pittsburgh, growing up watching him manage the Pirates, and, you know, playing for him here in Detroit, it was you know, it was real important for me to be here.
As a player on this team, how much are you concerned about having to reprove yourself to the next guy, whomever that is, knowing that you had a pretty good relationship with the last guy?
You know what? Every spring training I show up and I have to prove myself, go out there and fight for a job. So, you know, it's just, it's nothing different. Just going out there, you got to be who you are, go out and play your game, and regardless of who the manager is. I mean, Skip, he likes to win, and he's not going to put a guy on the team that he doesn't feel has a chance to make the team better and make the team win. So, you know, it's going to be the same with the next guy and wherever, you know, whoever it is.
And what does he call you?
Hitman.
The Hitman. Every time he sees Don Kelly. Hitman. Hey, how's it going? Donnie, thanks. We'll see you in Lakeland before you know it. All right, there's Don Kelly as the group is sort of gradually sort of winding down here. And Rod's back with us now. You heard from Don Kelly. You know, as a former player, you know, what is that like to hitch your wagon to a particular guy and then have to sort of do that all over again with whoever the next guy is?
Well, when you start talking about Don Kelly, I mean, you're talking about the ultimate hitch and the wagon. I mean, because of their relationship. And Don Kelly would be the first one to tell you. And it's not that he's not a good baseball player, because a lot of executives like the way that Don Kelly plays the game. But Don Kelly probably would not have gotten as many opportunities to stay in the big leagues had it not been for someone like Jim Leyland, who has given him every opportunity to succeed. And God bless Don Kelly, because every time Jim would give him that opportunity, he would step up. But that is nothing new for Jim. He's always had guys like Don Kelly on his roster, and it's because of what he had to go through to get to the major league. He said he was a 220 minor league player, and he was able to cultivate that into being one of the winningest managers in the game of baseball. So I think that's why he's always had that really soft spot for the one guy on the roster that's not that superstar player that could really fill out one spot on the 25-man roster.
We all know baseball people. Once you're not going to the ballpark every day, once you're not going to spring training, I mean, these are fire horses. I mean, they're used to a particular routine. How tough can it be? I guess it'll be the same question when you decide that you're low on fuel, that you're not going to the ballpark every day.
Do you know something that
I don't? No. Let me squash that speculation right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's tough to sit around.
It is, and you know, when you think about the fact that he's been in the game for 50 years, John, I mean, that is a long, long time. Think about doing the same job for 50 years, and all of a sudden your schedule changes. You don't, I mean, even when the off season comes around for us as announcers or even players, I got up this morning thinking, all right, what time do I have to be at the ballpark? Because your mind is so trained to be one place, and that's why this surprises me so much, because Jim, I think, still had some fire early in the season, but as the season wore on, I think, you know, the years start to catch up to you, and the travel gets tougher and tougher, but there's no doubt that it's going to be difficult for him to kind of transition into that next phase. Whatever that phase is for him, he'll be part of the organization. Tony La Russa has done that, and they're good friends, and I'm sure he'll give him a lot of really good advice on how to make that transition.
Do you think Tony La Russa would have any interest in this job in Detroit?
No, I think Tony La Russa's done. I really do. I think that his relationship with Jim Leyland as well would preclude him from coming here and taking this job. But, you know, I think you guys talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's important for Dave to do his due diligence on the next guy, and it's going to be difficult because this is a very veteran-laden group, and you've got to be different. You got to really be sure on who you bring into this position.
Can it be a situation where you're trying now to mesh the manager with the players as opposed to the other way around?
Well, I think that's one of the things that Dave will ask himself when he finally decides on who the next manager will be of this team. I'm sure he will talk to guys like Justin Verlander. I'm sure he'll talk to Miguel. I'm sure he'll talk to Prince about some of the managerial candidates and kind of see what they think about that. I mean, I think it's going to be a decision where the next guy that they bring in, as Dave said, it's going to be a very stressful job. This team, when they assemble, next February, it's going to be picked to win the World Series. There's no doubt about that. It's one of the best talented teams in baseball. They will be picked to get all the way to the World Series and win it, and that's going to be a pressured situation for really a new manager. So I think they're going to have to bring in somebody that has some kind of experience and someone that's had some success.
All right, baseball question. How different might this team for the new manager be? Because there are some things to work out. The future of Johnny Peralta and Joaquin Benoit and Omar Infante and Max Scherzer's arbitration eligible year as well.
Well, I don't think it's going to be that much different of a club, because when you start talking about the free agent status of Omar Infante, I'm sure they will go after Omar. I don't know about Johnny Peralta because the shortstop position is solidified. Every other position, for the most part, is solidified. I think they offered Benoit a contract, but he might want to close elsewhere, depending on whether they think he's a true setup man or whether he's a closer. Torrey Hunter, he just walks in front of shots. He just thinks he owns the place wherever he goes. But anyway, that's the kind of respect he has for me. But I'll let you get to Torrey here. I'll answer your question afterwards.
All right, let's bring in Torrey Hunter now. How are you? Thank you for coming over. I appreciate it. I asked Don Kelly this question. As a veteran guy, and one of the reasons why you came to Detroit was because of Jim Leyland. You're in the Fenway Park clubhouse, and he tells the team collectively, after a brutal, gut-wrenching loss, that he's moving on. Your reaction is what?
Well, just coming off the field, and you're thinking about that loss, and your head is down in your locker, and he comes in and he says, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys," and you got all the people, the people that wasn't, family out of the clubhouse, and when he said that, this is it, I gave it all I can give, and this is it, and you kind of throw away the loss, because Jim he's the head of our family in that clubhouse, and for him to say this is it, we knew that he's done, and we're not worried about this loss anymore. We're thinking about Jim. We're worried about him. He was very emotional, and he should be. After 51 years of professional baseball, and this is your love, this is your life, and for him to walk away from it, and which all of us are going to do one day, and we knew how tough it's going to be on him.
You got a nice deal to come to Detroit, but was Jim Leyland part of that equation in your decision-making process to come here?
Jim Leyland was definitely a big part of my decision coming to play with the Detroit Tigers. I built a relationship with him, being with the Minnesota Twins, coming to play you guys all the time, and with the Angels I talked to him a lot, and he would just give me all this little insight and all his knowledge, and then crack jokes with me. He was a funny man, and so we built a relationship right away, and just coming to play for him, I built a relationship with him here, as one of his players, and this one guy I respect in the game. 51 years, all that knowledge, all that wisdom, all that experience. And I just go up to him and I talk to him about baseball all the time, and he gives it to me.
You played for Tom Kelly and Ron Gardenhire in Minnesota, Mike Scioscia in Anaheim. You've been blessed, I guess, in terms of playing for some managers who really have the game figured out.
Yeah, I've been blessed to play for Tom Kelly and Gardenhire, and Mike Scioscia, one of the best managers in the game, and Jim Leyland, who has the most history, the most understanding of all the players and relationships he's built with the players. Some of the best players that ever played this game, Barry Bonds, and I can keep naming guys. And so I definitely think that with Jim Leyland, he's probably the best manager I ever had.
So how tough is it for the next guy to come in? Because you know your clubhouse better than anyone. It's a veteran group. It's a star-laden group. Will it be tricky for the manager to come in and take over your team?
Well, most managers, they just don't come in and step on toes right away. They kind of, test the waters a little bit and see where they can go, stretch it out a little bit, and one thing that if it's a really good manager, a manager wouldn't come in and mess up the camaraderie, the chemistry that a team has. This team is built already. We have a chance to win the World Series next year, and so I doubt that there's going to be a manager that comes in and destroys that chemistry. Dave Dombrowski is awesome. Trust me, he's going to do all his homework, get all the information he needs, and then he's going to make a decision from there.
Last question. Do you have a guy in your head that you think would be perfect to be the next manager of the Tigers?
What are you trying to do?
No, you don't even have to tell me who it is, but you have somebody in mind, I'm guessing.
No, I have nobody in mind, actually. Jim Leyland, that's all I knew. Okay. And so I've been thinking about it. If I wasn't playing, I think I'll be good myself.
We know you'd be good with the media. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. All right, there's Torrey Hunter. He's a beauty. As the season wound down, he's obviously been sort of the face of the Tigers franchise, and now the face is changing with the retirement announcement of Jim Leyland here at the Tiger Club at Comerica Park today. All right, Torrey gave this team a different look, didn't he?
He gave this team a different look. He gave this team a different feel in the clubhouse. You know, this team has had some leaders in the past. They've done it in different ways. Miguel Cabrera obviously is not a very boisterous guy, but he leads by the way he plays. Victor Martinez is not a very boisterous guy, but he leads by the way he plays. And then you get Torrey Hunter in the locker room, who's not afraid to get in somebody's face and say, hey, look, we've got to change the way we do things if he sees something that he doesn't like. And I love that about Torrey Hunter. And the thing is that Torrey came in with so much cachet to begin with that people just follow him. Veterans, young guys, they all know what he's all about and they all respect him.
When do you think this will happen, the next manager? What's in your own mind? What's a timetable for something like this?
Well, I think that it will happen before the general manager's meetings, for sure, which I believe is in December sometime, because you always want to have your manager in place when you go to the winter meetings, when you have discussions about potential free agents and possible trades and different things like that. And by Jim Leyland alerting David Dombrowski in September that he was going to step down, trust me, Dave has already compiled a list, whether he has said it or not, and it's probably a really short list of candidates that he's talked to a lot of different people about. So I think it's going to take place here rather quickly. It's not going to drag on past the winter meetings for sure.
All right, you guys thought you were done with me. One more day, as it turns out. Jim Leyland announcing his retirement today. The Tigers will have a new manager going forward. The guy who led them to 3 consecutive Central Division titles will take a job in the front office, but he no longer will be in the Tigers dugout as skipper. With Mario Mpemba and Rod Allen, for all of us at Fox Sports Detroit, I'm John Keating from Comerica Park. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Due to the length of the previous program, we now join the